Wake up right now. Just wake up. Wake up! Welcome back to another YouTube video. Everyone hates this podcast video. Stuff to talk with SHESH video. And here we is. We're back in Australia. We're back in home, I guess. Home. We're back at home. We're back doing our business. Back to work, back to school, back to uni, back to whatever you're doing. But I want to tell you one thing. What you thought you was going to be in this video? Nothing. You're living your lie, let me tell you that. You think you clicked on this video trying to find a way, ooh, Loki, ugly / fine guy, gonna tell you all the secrets into getting a girl or a guy? Let me tell you something. I'm gonna scooch in a little bit. Let me tell you something. You are going to be alone for the rest of your life. And I'm gonna guarantee you that. I just know this. That's what it's gonna be. I just know. Because this topic of discussion today is a solo one, different from what you normally see. Before, you used to be a partner with me, whether it be twin, other twin. Today it's just gonna be solo. Today, the topic of discussion, the stuff to talk with SHESH is romanticism, and how we are all gonna be alone for the rest of our lives. How dating is done. How you are never gonna get a girlfriend for the rest of your life. You're never gonna get a guy for the rest of your life. Unless you do a couple things, but I'm not that type of guy, if you know what I'm saying. We're gonna discuss. The first matter of discussion is, why is there romance in this world? And how romance and love came about. Obviously, we all know I was doing the whole spiel of it. Guy finds a girl, typically majority. Guy finds a girl, finds him attractive, whatever, finds her attractive, whatever, they bang, do the whole spiel, kids, and go on. The whole point of love, it's a fabricated thing. Love is all fabricated, it's all fake. It's set by a capitalist society to sell your product. It doesn't exist. All generations before us they only had relationships on merit of duty, of playing a role. Yes, there was love in it, but that love wasn't fabricated. It was manufactured in a way to benefit them and their family. I'll tell you something. My great-grandmother, she got married when she was 12 to my great-grandfather, who was around 26, like mid-20s. And this was just the spiel back in the day. This is just what the thing was. So I can't say anything about it, but I don't know. He was a great guy. She was a great woman. But she had to grow up quick. And that's what it was. But me going to talking about this is that she was never in love with anyone. But now, she had to be in love with him for the rest of her life. So now we're going to talk about two things. Why I think romance is dead today, even though people still fiend for it. Back in those days, people didn't really fiend for that love type of thing. Only as in a Western society, typically, that was an South Asian society, so it was a bit different. It was more out of duty, whatever. Love is more a fact of a brand shoving things down your throat. For instance, you see a lot of rom-coms. I'm a rom-com specialist. That's what I do. I do it 24/7. I watch a lot of rom-coms, and it's a pattern. It's a system where you the guy falls in love. Typically, guy's a loser, a geek, and then he finds a girl, and he breaks her down day after day, just pin up, like just talk to her, and they eventually get the girl. So that's typically what a romance thing is. But in this day of age, I'll tell you something. The biggest factor that's killing any sort of romance, any sort of bondage where you feel some sort of attraction, any sort of sexual attraction, any sort of attraction today. I hate to break it to you guys. Spoiler alert, it's capitalism / social media, if you want to hear the big news. I think the biggest problem is that what's being pushed to us is the biggest thing that's breaking our fundamental law of what we think romance is. I think that we have to first look at what we think beauty is. When we look at a beautiful person, we think of we think of features, facial features, whatever, personality, yeah, whatever. I think this society has skewed our perception of beauty, just effed it up, stuffed it up. Let me tell you something. It stuffed it up. I remember me and my twin was talking about women he wanted to talk to in his past life, whatever. And he was talking about how he saw a beautiful woman at school, but he knows that, okay, this is a beautiful woman at school, but you can also find another beautiful woman somewhere else in the world. But back in the day, if you saw that beautiful woman in school, that was it. That was the most beautiful creature in the world to you. That was it. You were gonna pioneer her. You're gonna do everything just to get her. But because of social media apps like TikTok, Instagram, our perception of beauty is so skewed. We now think that, like, let's say if we were to rate humans now, like a 7 out of 10, it's like average. Even you, the way you look at yourself, it's like you don't think you're beautiful when you look at yourself in the mirror. Typically, that is incorrect, because when you look at yourself, let's say you're a normal, average-looking person like myself, maybe, I don't know, I think I'm handsome. But when I look at myself in the mirror, I don't really think this is beautiful. And when I see someone else in a similar environment, like school, uni, work, whatever, I don't be saying, wow, she's the most beautiful person in the world. But because we have a point of comparison. Back in the day, our point of comparison was you and the most beautiful person you ever come across. But now our point of a comparison is so far gone and skewed. We see people who we're not meant to see. For instance, a celebrity, or like someone on TikTok who's just shaking their ass. Oh my God, it's out of this world. I ain't stopping you, but it's so. If let's say this beautiful East African girl you see on TikTok, I'm coming from my memory here, but she skews my perception of beauty that I go, oh my God, this is the most beautiful thing in the world. So when I look at all the other beautiful people in the world, that I've come across, it's gonna skew it. It's gonna F it up. Now I don't think this girl here is beautiful. But because of seeing more beautiful people that we're not meant to see, it raises our standards so high in terms of looks. Not even personality. Looks is the reason why you're coming to talk to that. I don't want to say a word. Talk to that woman in the first place. Looks is the reason why you're talking to that man in the first place. Looks is the reason. When people say personality, second, you're lying to yourself. You're lying. I remember this sister that's told me that, personality is a thing. Man, stop lying to yourself, bitch. I'm talking to you. You know who I'm talking about, but it don't matter. When it comes to personality or looks is what drags you in. Personality is what keeps you there. I know when people talk about how you develop a relationship, let's say a platonic relationship, and then that festers into a romantic one. Looks obviously has to be there just to even fester into a romantic one. You can't do it with at the other, if you know what I'm saying. I know people can, but this is speaking from the majority. I feel I'm not denying that personality, someone might choose it just for personality's sake, but I feel like sometimes personality makes them also attractive. It's hard. It's like nowadays is a trend. A friend of mine was talking about it just today, that there's a trend for women to now fall for slightly ugly guys, and now people are like if you know what I'm talking about, they have to be not too handsome, but they're slightly ugly. Think of Roderick from Diary of the Wimpy Kid, like slanky type of look. Like we call him goobers. If you know, you know. It's just what's again. That's how it is right now, and because our standards of seeing someone so high, especially for men, typically they initiate everything, but now it's stuffed up. You don't be seeing anyone that come across you and be like, let's say, pretend you're a beautiful person. And if you are, you are. But let's say, out of all the experiences in your life, I'm guaranteed that if you were living 30, 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, if you were a beautiful person, you'll get more people coming up to you and asking for dates, a number, what's your name, stuff like that. But now, people are a little more standoffish, people are a little more into themselves, people are a little more secluded. And because of this, there's been a separation between, I hate to say it, there's been a huge separation between the genders. Like a lot more people nowadays, because of this, there's a measure to keep one to themselves. They're keeping to themselves most of the time. I've seen it myself. I see a beautiful curly haired dark skinned woman that walks across me. Dude, I am just the biggest thing I'll do. I'm just gonna walk straight past and just think about another whole fantasy in my head about her a million years later. I'll tell you what the fantasies that come across my head. I'm talking about how we're gonna get married, we're gonna get kids, we're gonna grow old, die, pass on, whatever. This is just the stuff that plays in my head. But I know in another past life, in another me, I'm gonna go across and be like, excuse me lady, can I have your number? But it's not gonna happen because this is this life right now. I ain't gonna do that. So I'm walking across. That's typically what's an everyday thing that people be facing. So now you gotta ask yourself, why is romance dead? Because increased standards. Well, because of increased standards, you don't settle. You don't settle at all. People don't settle. People always ask for more. People ask. I've been a victim of this as well. Not really a victim, but I've done this as well. Like, come on. You always think you can do better, but that sometimes is the wrong thing to think, because what you think could be better could be the best for you right now. If you know what I'm saying. If you know what I'm saying. But typically, it is what it is. That's all the best we can say. And now, I know that sometimes, especially young men, I've been seeing most of the time, because of the fact that they can't get into relationships, they foster some sort of deep feeling against people who can, and against groups of people that are like who they think is a wall behind relationships, and a wall behind a world that they've never seen. Typically, I'm talking about incels. I'm typically talking about people who foster some kind of distaste for people who think they are doing much better than they are. And realistically, no one is doing better than no one. You are in the same boat as everyone else. Let me tell you that. Like, awkward engineering guy. I'm sorry to bring up engineering, but awkward engineering guy #1 is the same as awkward engineering girl #2, but she's just fighting different battles. Everyone got the same problems. Everyone's doing the same thing. Let me tell you that. I was talking with a dog of mine. I was talking with Kwong. Shout out Kwong. We was talking about how every single time we see every single time we see the love of our lives, we be messing each other on to each other. We're like, oh my gosh, she's the love of our life. But then we don't be doing nothing. We don't be doing nothing because of it, and because of that, we get stuck in the same position that we were in terms of what we want. Because we think a woman's gonna solve all our problems, or say if it's a woman's case, a man's gonna solve all your problems. Realistically, no, but it can, yes, if you know what I'm saying. Like you have someone on your back to turn to. Now you have some, in my eyes, a pair of nice bosoms to fall asleep to. Me, I can come home and talk to this woman. If you're a girl or a guy, you can come home and talk to this girl or guy. You know, like you have someone to rely on. You have someone to fall back to. You have someone that can be there for you, in a way that, I know, you're kind of lost. Because as I see, as more and more, there's more virgins, as we become more digitized, if you know what I'm saying. Like the age for losing your virginity back in the day was probably like 16, 17, 15. I'm dragging it, but now 20, it's gonna touch 20. 19, free me. 22, it's gonna be mid-20s, let me tell you that, because everyone's more secluded. Of course there's people doing it, I ain't disagreeing, but I feel like it's gonna be that in the future. And I tell you that not all the time people will be searching for, oh, let me lose my virginity right now, let me lose my virginity right now, because people are looking for those intimate relationships. But those intimate relationships that people are searching for, it's gonna die down, I feel. I know this is such a pessimistic look into it, but this is what I'm seeing. And I know I might contradict myself in the future where I find myself a hubby, a wifey, but it is what it is at the end. I'm just saying what I'm feeling right now. The concept of relationships, I always thought, like me personally, I look at them with jealousy, because how do you even talk to the girl without saying all the stuff you really mean? Because it's such a long ass game. I know when people mesh together it really easily, but this is just for the majority. Now conversation skills are dying down. Now there's a pressure to it. People run, oh my god, I'd be hating on the people that be saying, you know who you are. You're some 12-year-olds, like, you know what I'm saying? But like, there's been a pressure just to act upon and be able to get the bag, if you know what I'm saying. But because of the added pressure, we tend to force ourselves in situationships, in relationships that we're not a part of. And it's not the best thing in the world. I know that it's these forceful type of situationships, relationships, it's something that you are manufacturing thinking that it'll be good for you, but realistically, it will not. Realistically, it will not help you at all. Realistically, it's just, you think you want to go on a high, but no, you're going to go into a low. It's like, if you ever known like moments in your life where you think you're doing well, but then crash, that's exactly what these forced situationships or relationships are. But to manufacture, to create something authentic, to create something that's real, the opportunities for people to do it, I think, are decreasing, because we are more worried about what the other person's thinking of us than they are thinking of you, if you know what I'm saying. Like, this is me venting about my problems, to be honest. Because let's say if I'm seeing someone beautiful, I'll be thinking to myself, damn. And if I say someone that's wrong, I'll be thinking to myself, damn, what could I have done? But like, if I know people will be saying regret is worse than rejection. Dude, you don't know how hard it is to jump over that hump. It's so hard to jump over that regret hump, not getting over that regret. Because to be honest, I can't pull it off with that much confidence. I have confidence, but not to a level where I'm out to be like, hey girl, what's your number? Hey girl, what's your Insta? Like, I can't be doing that 24/7. It's just not a me thing to do. And this is not for everybody as well. But when it comes to finding going up and hollering at some person, or trying to create an authentic relationship, trying to manifest it at work, trying to manifest it at school, trying to manifest it at wherever you are, it's just a long waiting process that a lot of people attention spans and ability to foster in a long period of time. I'm waffling here. It's decreasing because people want it straight away. I'll tell you what's going in, because of the need for people to want it, the time people put to invest it has decreased. That's a theory that I've manifested. I know what's going in. There's a brother of mine. He knows who he is. He was what's going in. He thought he was. I feel like he thought he was lagging behind everyone else when it comes to this sort of game, and because of it, he artificially created a relationship with some other person, and this, to me, is like a backwards thinking and forwards thinking at the same time. Because most of the time, I do be jealous if you be getting any sort of action, but at the same time, I know in the long run, this artificial creation, it's not gonna work because it ain't authentic enough. I tell you, these apps like Hinge, Bumble, Tinder, all this, they're the death of mankind, especially male kind. It has now saturated this market to the T. It has now saturated this market where it's now a game. Making relationships, fostering human connections is now a game where you swipe left or right. This has kind of ruined our perception of what we think another person is, because now all we do is we see it from a one-dimensional way, if you know what I'm saying, never really connecting. And if you're ever given a chance to connect, it's going to be so, I know it could work. I'm not denying it couldn't. I'm not saying it couldn't. I'm saying it could. It could possibly, but the chances of it is just so. It's just so it's just disproportionate, if you know what I'm saying. Especially for young males, where they are majorly swiping right on everything, but then while women are more selective, which is, I think, the better chance of it, because I know them young males are doing it just to get yash, but while they are majority swiping right on it, they are kind of secluding themselves from the real connections, what they find in the real world. But even then, you can't force it, so I'm not saying anything too much on it. But there's a huge detriment that these type of markets, or these type of applications can apply to one guy's head. Like I was on it for like a couple of seconds, dude. I told myself I'm not gonna get anything out of this because it was never gonna work. Like, it's just so. What did Kanye say? I know I look better in real life. Like, come on, you gotta see the real version, 3-dimensional, to see the actual dimensions, if you get my drift. The concept of us having just a one-dimensional personality in places or environments like dating apps, like social media, stuff like that, you can't do anything out of it unless you take the time to make it. It takes a long time. I know people have done it in the past, and I'm not saying it's not possible, like I said before, but it is. It could be, but that's fair and few. It's fair and few. I know the act of even doing it nowadays, it's, to me personally, I'm not saying you ain't doing it. You could be. I'm not judging. But the act of doing it nowadays, I feel like it's so foreign to a lot of people's eyes, especially people who are much more introverted, much more not as confident, but they could be doing it. I'm not saying this is just the majority. The act of doing it is, I think, as this age goes on and on and on, as like the years go by, I think it'll be much more foreign to a lot more people, because unless you're not forcing it. If you are forcing it, whatever. But I'm saying the act of having that intimate bond between that people when you're doing it, I feel like it's going to be, people are not going to feel it. That's why there's more people being more experimental when it comes to this sort of actions, like doing other sorts of play, of going into same-sex relationships, or even giving up. I wouldn't say giving up, but like even being a little bit bisexual, or even being asexual altogether, saying that damn, F this, I'm doing everything by myself. People are being so experimental with it. You do your own life, but I'm saying people are gonna do more of that because they are given the opportunity to expand their taste more. And sometimes it can be a detriment to one's perception of what romance is, because then you search far and wide you try everything in the world, but then you end up with nothing because I feel like sometimes people force that kind of stuff on them. For instance, people let's say, they try so much stuff and then they get bored of one thing and they go into the other. It could work for them. This could open an avenue for them. But let's say it doesn't. Now what else are you trying to do now? Like, you go back to the old ways, or you go back to the new, or you do something. This is just a journey, to be honest. And I have no qualms in people doing whatever they want, because it's your life, not mine. But I do see it as an observer. I do see how people can somehow end up with nothing after doing it all. It's so much more complex, because humans are so complex. Like, every single time when I look at like, especially women be looking at as guys, they're so complex. What do we want? It's so simple. But as I'll be looking at women the same way, like, damn, you guys are so complex. She's so complex. She got all these things. Kanye was saying something in All Falls Down. She cut her hair. Now she had her hair, she like weave. She cut her hair, now she looked like Eve. Single black female addicted to retail. Like, it's just, people are so complex because of as people, we're more than just one thing. And then trying to find ourselves in that one thing, people try and connect with that, and that is such a harder task to do, to be honest. Now, you're going into the avenue of what I think now people should do to get that eventual connection. And there has to be a system for people to be placed under. This is just my theory. You can debate it with me afterwards, but this is just a theory that I've been putting inside my head. I'm thinking that it will work eventually, but I'm not sure. The theory is that there has to be a system where people have to be put under, where people manifest authentic relationships off of, but sometimes the system can be a bit flawed, because I hear some horrible news about it all the time. But let's say the system it's a set of boundaries where people follow, I won't say rules, but like ways of living that can somehow help us create or foster authentic relationships under. It's such a far-fetched, such a foreign concept, I know, but this is a sort of application that I want to explore or see, thinking that it could help people manifest relationships with a significant other. For instance, in the workforce, there's a system where people often connect to each other, talking, whatnot. But now, because of people just connecting, they build them under the system of connection and communication. They build a relationship out of it that forces more and more and more into authentic relationships. I know how I was talking about how people try and build romantic relationships through school, through uni, through work, whatever. But there's not a thing where, I think work is a bad example of it. for instance, I think to be honest, the best. Here's what I've been thinking. This might be a bit far fetched for a lot of the viewers out there, but I'm so like caught up with whether I should say it or not. But to be honest, I do think this might be a bold take. You can argue with me if you want, but I do think religion might help foster authentic, meaningful relationships with a significant other. Because now this is more than just finding a relationship with someone that you just want to do more of. Then now this is for the benefit of the community. I know there's opposite sides to it, where people might say they're doing the exact same thing with, let's say, interests. Let's say you and your wife or hubby is part of a basketball team. You foster a basketball community. Same thing along these lines. Like there's little communities, all ravers, all gamers, or you know what I'm saying. But I know there's flaws within this concept of religion depicting social romantic relationships, but it's just the fact that that romance is gone, and I think this is just my pessimistic side, but I think romance is gone, and I think religion can replace that foundation of building a community afterwards. That can set up. Religion sometimes can have standards that can have a set of rules that you can apply, that you can foster, because you're so close to each other because of these religious doctrines. You end up forming romantic relationships. I know there's some flaws behind it, but I think it could work if you really could make it work, which is the same thing for every other thing. But if you catch my drift. For instance, there's like an opposite sides where, especially for women sometimes have it, especially in religious, where they somehow forced to marry or even fall into relationships where they not, because of religiously, for instance, my mother and my father arranged marriage. This is not more religious, this is more just a family thing, but this is the same sort of speaking. This arranged marriage, dude, I thought they would be, if there was someone else, they would be divorced 24/7. They would be divorcing just today, tomorrow, and the day after, and yesterday. But because of something like this, they managed to stick it together. And now, as they grow older and older, it's such a, as they grow older and older, they somehow try and rely on each other for more and more, and they end up loving each other more. I know there's like also in things where, for instance, in Islamic marriages, the women have no there's a lot of scary stories out there where women end up not feeling anything at all. They just they don't have, because they're born into these marriages and they can't divorce because of what they can, but in their heart they can't divorce because it feels to them that they're letting their family down. They're in sexless, no romantic, no intimate, no anything relationships that they end up dying in. And I feel so bad for them, but if we could work it out, because that typically is the man's fault for what not doing it. But if we can typically work it out between cultures under a system, religion is just an example, but we need to make some sort of system like this. But I don't see ourselves making it, but it's just an idea. But it's just somehow we can work it out. To be honest, the whole point of the plan is everyone gets along, everyone gets together, but it's just that's not realistically not going to happen at all. But if we could do that in any sort of way within our small communities, it could make it work. I know, for instance, my grandmother, she got married at 16 to my grandfather, who was 26, and she's 16. She must have been so scared, but like this is out of a religious and an arranged marriage, and because of this, she must have been so scared of being so young, being married to an older man. But that older man was like the best decision that she could ever make, because Tana's marrying my grandfather. He cared for her, didn't do anything with her till she was of age, and did everything afterwards. Take care of a family, made a beautiful family, whatever. Made my mother, and then that turned out to be me. But I'm saying this in a way to say they eventually found some sort of happiness with their relationship based on a foundation. Religion could be that foundation. It could be anything, to be honest. But you're gonna have to stick it through to make it work. And I don't see any of us in this day of age without some sort of brick foundation that will that will help us in a way as we grow older. And because let's say people have the fantasy of being married at 24 or 25, dude, you have to put in the work to be that, unless you somehow just get asked out at 25 or something by the love of your life. But it ain't gonna happen. You have to make it work to do that. Like, there's all these fantasies of like, oh my god, someone's gonna save me. Dude, you need to save yourself first, and then you can get someone to save you. To be honest, it's just a tricky thing. Human relationships is such a tricky thing, and I have such a pessimistic view on it because I think this pessimistic view might help me get a more optimistic view if someone just walks into my life and just picks me up, and she will do everything. But that's just my own twisted voices talking to me about my delusions. So whatever. I know this video is more of a clickbait, so you're gonna get clickbaiters on because it's gonna say 5 easy ways to get a girlfriend / boyfriend. But no, this is more of my rant on why I think a lot more people are gonna be alone. And to be honest, I see myself being alone in the future. I know people will be saying, "Well, don't be sick. You gotta think positive, think positive, think positive." Dude, I can barely even see myself. I can't even imagine myself with having a romantic relationship. Like, I can't even see myself being romantic, and that's a huge thing that a lot of people are facing. They can't, unless you're already in a relationship, whatever. But I'm saying a lot of people will be not seeing themselves being romantic, and I think that's a problem as well because they never dip their toes in. Now, how do they expect to dip their whole body in? You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta dip your toes in first, but at the same time, you gotta understand there's boundaries to that stuff. So obviously, there's a whole rant. There's a 40-minute rant or something about this, and to be honest, it probably gone nowhere. But it's still a productive discussion. I want to get your thoughts and ideas on it, and eventually, if you see myself in the next 5 years, I got a wife right next behind me doing this podcast, very same podcast. I don't know where else my EHTP brothers are at. I know they're working, I know they're grinding. We're talking about more topics, more to come. This new semester, this new season of Everyone Hates This podcast. This is Stuff to Talk with SHESH, episode 8, I believe. So hopefully romance will come in the future because I'm a die-hard romantic. I'm a lover for rom-coms. I want to see myself in that periodic, systematic view. Love.